Hey everyone, Miss Houchins and McRib back again. Today we're going to be talking about air masses and weather fronts. So let's get started. All right. So to start off with, an air mass is a huge volume of air that can cover the entire continent or the entire ocean. And in order to be considered an air mass, they have to have a similar moisture and similar temperatures. So here are some different types of air masses. You have maritime, which means over water, and then you have continental, which means over land. So the blue and green are maritime air masses, and the darker blue and orange and purple are the continental air masses. So they can form over water or over land. And air masses that form over the poles, the North and the South Pole, are cold. And the ones that form over the tropics or near the equator are your warm air masses. So what happens when two air masses meet? When two air masses meet, they don't mix. They form a border known as a front, and most of the weather that we think of comes from those fronts. So you've got one air mass here, you've got one air mass here. When they meet, they're not going to combine into each other. They're going to kind of stay like this. And depending on which one is stronger will depend on what type of front you end up with. So there are 4 types of fronts, and I have color-coded them because it will be important here in just a second. A cold front, a warm front, a stationary front, and an occluded front. So a cold front is when a cold air mass moves into a warm air mass. That cold air is denser and it pushes up underneath the warm air. The warm air becomes cooler as it rises. And if that rising air is humid enough, that water vapor will condense into clouds and then it may rain. Some type of precipitation may fall. So you can see in this picture that cold air is pushing into that warm air and making that warm air rise. And when it's rising, you form cumulus and cumulonimbus clouds. So you can see in this picture the angle, depending on how fast that warm air, or that cold air rather, is moving in, will depend on what type of clouds are formed from that cold front. So when that angle is steep, that will typically bring your heavy rains, sudden and heavy rainstorms. So as the cold front moves, warm, moist, unstable air is usually replaced by cold, dry, stable air. On a weather map, you will see a cold front in blue. And the cold front has little teeth, little triangles. And depending on the way that those triangles are facing, depends on the way that cold front is moving. So now moving into a warm front. A warm front is when that warm air mass moves into a colder air mass. That warm air mass is moving and it rides up and over the cold air mass, and that's what forms your clouds and your storms. So you can see in this picture that warm air mass is going up and over that cold air mass. So warm air masses, you go in the sequential order of your clouds. You start with the cirrus clouds, your cirrostratus, altostratus, stratus, and nimbostratus. So warm front typically starts with cirrus clouds about 24 to 48 hours before the rain starts. Cirrus clouds are at the front of the front. More warm air is pushed upward, and more moisture condenses, forming those cirrostratus clouds. More warm air is pushed up. The heavier clouds form. Those are your altostratus and your stratus. And then the final cloud type is your nimbostratus, and remember, nimbo is rain. So as that warm front moves, that cool, dry air is replaced by warm, moist air, so it's got more moisture in it. On a weather map, warm fronts are red and they have the bumps. So whichever way the bumps are facing are the way that warm front is moving. Stationary fronts. Stationary means sitting still. So a warm air mass and a cold air mass collide. They are both the same strength. Neither one of them has the power to move the other one out of the way. So they're just going to sit there. And when you have those stationary fronts, they stay in the same place for a long time. And that means there's going to be constant snow or rainfall. So in this picture, you see that the cold front and the warm front are right up against each other. They're not strong enough to move each other out of the way. And because of this, and because it sits and it rains or it snows, that can lead to your several inches of snow or your rain causing floods. So stationary fronts are red and blue because you have a cold air mass and you have a warm air mass, and neither one of them is strong enough. So you have the red bumps from the warm front and the blue triangles from the cold front. An occluded front. You have two masses of fast-moving cold air meet. And so you've got both of these are cold air, and when they come together and they slam into each other, that warm air mass that gets caught in the middle here is forced upward. And when you have that occluded front, you have strong winds and heavy rain or snow. So just like when you have those two cold air masses moving together really fast and they hit each other, they're going to force that warm air in the middle up and out. And occluded fronts are purple, and they have the triangles and the bumps facing the same way on a weather map. All right, time for a Kahoot. So go ahead, pause the video, play this Kahoot. Your pin number is right down here on the bottom, and then come back. All right, I hope you have enjoyed the videos this week. I have certainly been enjoying making them for you. Remember, if you have any questions, reach out to your teachers. See you soon.